Tonight on Reporting Scotland, the extreme wildfire warning is still in place across the country as the warm weather continues. Fire crews are tackling blazes on Arran, Peterhead and near Cumbernauld, where residents had to evacuate.
When they were leaving, there were already flames on the road. They were weaving between the flames. It was quite worrying and scary.
Also on tonight's programme, we talk to one of the last residents of the derelict housing estate, which is so eerie it's been dubbed Scotland's Chernobyl.
People go, oh, how can you live there? You're not scared? No, I'm a big guy, I can't handle myself.
Cloon Park was built for workers in the shipyards of Port Glasgow and now it's due for demolition. Calls for national transport entitlement cards for disabled people to be valid on all night buses.
Coming up in tonight's sport, there's just one game to go before the premiership splits in two and 3 clubs have their sights set on the one remaining spot in the top half.
And we're at Ayr Races for Ladies' Day ahead of the Scottish Grand National at the weekend. Hello, I'm Laura Miller. Welcome to Friday's programme. An extreme wildfire warning remains in place for the whole of the country this evening and into tomorrow. Firefighters were working overnight to tackle blazes, including near Cumbernauld in North Lanarkshire and on the Isle of Arran. And crews are currently working to contain fires in Thurso and Peterhead. It follows other incidents in recent days in Skye and the Galloway Forest Park. As we head into the weekend, people are being urged to act responsibly. Gillian Sharp reports.
In the morning light, this was still a very active fire on the outskirts of Cumbernauld. The smell of billowing smoke, flames leaping up in the air as the wind changes direction. The fire broke out yesterday evening. Some dramatic pictures on social media. Locals are being asked to avoid the area and close windows and doors. This was filmed at a local kennel and cattery last night. The fire was so close they evacuated the animals in their care.
When they were leaving, there were already flames on the road. They were weaving between the flames. It was quite worrying and scary. I'm very grateful the fire chief was able to escort me to the kennels and was able to get 2 more rounds to get all the dogs, every last one of them, to safety.
Back with the animals this morning, but in a moving situation, the road closed again.
On the one hand, we're very grateful for fire services for looking after us. On the other, we're praying that we're not going to have to evacuate again because that's very difficult for everybody involved.
This fire, according to volunteers at the local country park, is the third and most serious this week, something that can have wide-reaching effects.
At the moment, this time of year, a lot of animals are in breeding season and the ground nesting birds are in breeding season. And they are all disrupted. Their nest will be destroyed, the habitat will be destroyed, so it will put them back for 3 or 4 seasons probably, not just for the immediate future.
Over the last few weeks, there have been wildfires across the country, from Thurso to Dumfries and Galloway, Arran to the Pentlands. The Scottish Fire and Rescue Service is urging people to act responsibly. People come to places like the Cairngorms National Park for a love of the outdoors. They have this advice.
They're probably coming here because they love the forests, they love the mountains, they love the moorlands that we have. But bear in mind that these are areas which at the moment are under a real risk of being damaged by fire. So don't have a campfire, don't have a barbecue. That's something you could perhaps do when you get back home. But while you're here, enjoy the place for what it is and don't run the risk of setting things alight.
The wildfire warning remains in place tomorrow. Crews are expected to be at the Cumbernauld fire for some time. Gillian Sharp, reporting Scotland, near Cumbernauld.
Detectives have described as reckless a series of fires allegedly started deliberately in a suspected Gangland feud. Police have seized weapons, drugs, cash and a stolen vehicle, as well as hundreds of hours of CCTV footage. Maura Kinnebra reports.
This fire in Bishopbriggs to the north of Glasgow damaged a carpet factory on Tuesday. Is one of a series of incidents being investigated by police. Detectives believe a spate of fires in and around Greater Glasgow could be linked to similar events in the Lothians. No one has been hurt. Officers are investigating deliberate fires at 6 homes and businesses in less than a week. They've visited more than 100 homes and are scouring 700 hours of CCTV footage. Senior officers have issued a fresh statement saying it's vital they trace those responsible, adding, while we believe these to be targeted attacks, the consequences could have been far more serious.
My garage. Feel the heat.
Over the past month, similar incidents have happened in and around Edinburgh. Police believe criminal gangs are actively targeting each other. Weapons, drugs and cash have been seized across the Central Belt. Gunshots were fired at 2 separate homes, one in the north of the city, another in the south of Edinburgh. Senior officers say a number of arrests have been made and there will be more across the country in the coming weeks. They want to reassure communities and are conducting more checks and patrols, appealing for anyone with information to come forward immediately, especially if they have dashcam, doorbell or other footage. Morag Kinneborough, reporting Scotland.
A derelict housing estate, dubbed Scotland's Chernobyl for its eerie ghost town-like appearance, is finally about to be razed to the ground. The tenements at Cloon Park in Port Glasgow were built a century ago as housing for shipyard workers, but have lain mostly abandoned for years. A standoff between private landlords and the local council has thwarted redevelopment, leaving the site frozen in time with just a handful of tenants remaining. Hazel Martin has the story.
This is Cloon Park, an abandoned housing estate in Port Glasgow. It's often referred to as Scotland's Chernobyl. Built more than a century ago to house shipyard workers, over time people left as work began to dry up. Most of the flats are now empty and have fallen into disrepair. With the decline in shipbuilding, the estate spiralled and became a target for vandalism. House prices plummeted, with some flats going on the market for less than £10,000. Comparisons have often been made to the Ukrainian city of Pripyat, abandoned after the 1986 explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear plant. Beyond appearances, though, their stories are very different. There's been a long-running standoff between Inverclyde Council and private landlords, which stalled plans for redevelopment. But despite the damage to the tenements, there are still a handful of residents living here.
That's the master bedroom.
Marshall Craig has been a tenant in Cloon Park for 20 years. His block is not yet scheduled for demolition, so he's staying put for now.
I'm quite happy here. It's just me. What more can you do? People go, oh, how can you live there? You're not scared? No, I'm not scared. I'm a big guy. I can handle myself. I don't want to move. I'm quite happy here. It is quiet, decent neighbours, a decent view, a really decent view of the Clyde.
In the first stage of demolition, about a third of the buildings will go after they were condemned as structurally unsafe, including this church and fire-damaged Victorian school. The council wants to build 165 new homes on the site, but many of the old flats are still in the hands of private owners, meaning there's no clear timescale for when the work will be complete.
It's sad. This is part of your history, your heritage. This estate has been here for generations, and ultimately when it's cleared and demolished, that history is gone, that physical history. But I think we can create a new neighbourhood here that will serve this community well for generations to come.
The demolition marks the beginning of the end for this estate, but it may be some time yet before the new Cloon Park rises from the rubble. Hazel Martin, reporting Scotland, Port Glasgow.
To some of the day's other stories now. And the funeral of the late SNP MSP Christina McKelvey took place earlier today. The former government minister died last month, aged 57, in hospital after a lengthy battle with secondary breast cancer. Miss McKelvey's partner, Keith Brown, was among those carrying her coffin, which was draped with a saltire. Senior figures in Scottish politics, such as former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon, Cabinet Secretary for Social Justice Shirley Ann Somerville, and the Health Secretary Neil Gray attended the service at Dildowie Crematorium. A woman has died in hospital 3 days after a fire in a flat in Paisley. Emergency services were called to the ground floor property on Barterholme Street at around 11 o'clock on Sunday night. 7 people were taken to local hospitals and a 38-year-old woman has died of her injuries today. Police have launched an investigation and are appealing for anyone with information to contact them. The fire at a battery recycling facility in Kilwinning in North Ayrshire on Wednesday has been deemed non-suspicious following a joint investigation between Police Scotland and the Scottish Fire and Rescue Service. Emergency services are being stood down from the area, but residents are being reminded to continue to keep windows and doors closed. Now, the National Entitlement Card gives thousands of disabled people free access to public transport, but on buses run by some companies, it stops being useful after midnight. That's because night buses are classed as premium services, which aren't covered by the scheme. Disabled passengers are calling on the Scottish Government to include nighttime travel in the card's coverage, as Ian Hamilton reports.
As night falls across Edinburgh, people are heading on an evening out. During the day, anyone with a disability is able to travel free on public transport. But like Cinderella, they have to head home before midnight, concerned that they can't use the free travel scheme on night buses. Andrew Hiddleston has a learning and physical disability. He helps organise social events for people like himself.
We held an event at a hotel on Princess Street and it finished late at night. So I had to get a night bus home, and I put my entitlement card down, and the driver said, "Oh no, you need to pay the full fare." And so I just paid it and never thought any more of it. Somebody might be relying on their national entitlement card to get them home, and it would be 12 o'clock at night and maybe have no money.
This is a national entitlement card that allows thousands of disabled people across Scotland to travel free on public transport. It allows people to socialise, be independent and keep safe. But is that the case for all bus companies at all times of day? In Edinburgh, Lothian buses say that night service is a premium, meaning that disabled people pay. First Bus in Glasgow accept the card at night, apart from the airport run. And Stagecoach say they accept it across Scotland. The policy on Edinburgh's nighttime buses even caught out an MSP.
The driver said you can't use your card. So without any warning, I was then forced to pay the fare. Now that was okay for me, but if we've got a scheme that is meant to allow disabled people to live full normal lives, we're getting restricting them from being able to go out, enjoy the night economy. And I think the answer is simple for the Scottish Government to put the money in to that scheme.
Transport Scotland say they don't fund premium services and it's up to the individual bus operators. What disabled people are asking for is consistency and clarity about where and when they can use their concession card. Ian Hamilton, reporting Scotland, Edinburgh.
Well, the news at 7 is coming up on the BBC Scotland channel shortly. Amy Irons is here to tell us more. Hi, Amy. What have you got for us this evening?
Hi, Laura. Busy programme as always. Obviously, been talking about the extent of the wildfires that we're seeing across the country at the moment. So we're going to be joined by a fire expert, actually, who can tell us just more about the complexity in actually trying to deal with these fires and why it is so challenging. Also, we've been speaking a lot as well this week about the nice weather, haven't we? And it might make you think about getting outside. If you're a keen hill walker, you certainly will prefer it in weather like this. We're actually going to be joined by a scientist from Glasgow University who is helping develop a computer system that can actually try and track what you might do if you manage to get lost in the hills and go off track a little bit. Second guessing what you might actually do, how humans would behave. So we're going to hear more about that. Fascinating.
There's an app for everything.
Yes, there is. AI.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks.
Tonight's main news again. An extreme wildfire warning remains in place for the whole of the country today and into tomorrow. Firefighters have been tackling blazes near Cumbernauld, on Arran and in Thurso and Peterhead.
And still to come in the sport, Glasgow Warriors are in Dublin for a huge quarter-final clash in the Champions Cup.
Now, up to 25,000 people are expected in Ayr this weekend for the Scottish Grand National meet. Well, it's Ladies' Day today, and what a day they have had for it. And our sports news correspondent Chris McLaughlin has been there mingling. Chris, I thought you'd have your top hat and tails on.
Laura, I can't get a top hat to fit me. I've very much got a pea-head, and I'm more of a kilt man anyway, I think. Yeah, a stunning day here in Ayr today. Always seems to shine on Ladies' Day here at Ayr Racecourse. The one perhaps cloud is that ongoing controversy over horse safety. One horse died at the Grand National at Aintree last weekend. Animal rights protesters say they will continue to campaign until this sport is banned. Organisers here say this event is very safe. I think one thing that isn't up for debate, though, is that it's a sport that remains very, very popular.
Yay! Usually sunny, always colourful. Ladies' Day at Ayr for some is a must in the Scottish racing calendar.
I love the horses. I love the horses so much. Just the atmosphere. It's a great atmosphere. It's a great place.
What is it that makes it so special?
The horses, the weather, spending time with your friends. It's lovely.
Everyone really puts in the effort with their outfits. They have the fashion shows, which makes it a bit more fun. I love getting dressed up, and it's obvious that loads of other people do as well, so it's nice to see how everyone puts in the effort.
Is it about the racing? Is it about the day? What is it about?
Well, the racing, we're Ayrshire, we know the jockeys, we know the trainers of a few of the horses. So it's the racing and the company and the fun.
The company's the main thing.
The sport itself is thought to be worth over £300 million to the Scottish economy, but it's an industry that still divides opinion.
We've seen animal rights protests here before, and campaigners say they won't stop until horses stop dying for sport. It's popular, yes, but it remains controversial.
In the build-up to meets like Ayr, hours of training and assessing whether horses are suitable.
For me, I adore my horses. If at any point I was worried about it, I wouldn't do it, and I'd stop doing it. But for me, I think it's a risk that we all take in life. We have to minimise the risks. Life is a risk, but we have to minimise the risks that we take and look after these wonderful horses as well as we can.
This track has lowered its fences in recent years in response to horse deaths. But is it enough? Controversial for some, unmissable for others. Memories made in the sunshine, either way. Chris McLaughlin, reporting Scotland, Ayr.
Okay, let's continue with the sport now. Lewis is here.
What a weekend this sport.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The golf, that's what you want to get to,
I know,
isn't it?
exactly. I want to talk about the golf. I'm desperate. I thought Chris might have mentioned it. He described himself as having a pea head. I thought he might have gone for golf ball head, but there we go.
His words, not ours.
His words, exactly. But yeah, plenty of football and rugby too, Laura, so it really is all go. Thanks very much. Hello there. With one game to go before the premiership table splits in two, will it be Hearts, St Mirren or Motherwell who complete the top six? Well, here is how the table stands at the moment. Hearts are in the driving seat ahead of their trip to take on Motherwell. What a game there. While St Mirren will be relying on the help of the Steelmen against the Jambos at Fir Park. However, the Steelmen in 8th won't be hoping to do any favours, will they? If they can beat 6th placed Hearts, they will get into the top half if St Mirren slip up in their home clash against Ross County tomorrow.
Psychologically, how the game pans out and how it's played, it's a different scenario. It's not like a normal regular league game that you play every week because of the nature of where the game is placed within the calendar. So it's a bit different. I've never experienced it before, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens.
I don't think they will come here nervous. They have the expectations are perhaps a little bit higher, but we also want points. So hopefully a tough game, hopefully a big challenge, hopefully an interesting game for the spectators, and in the end, the team who reached the top six earned it or deserved it.
That's why it's such a big game, because you've got an opportunity to go into the top six, an opportunity to break 40 points if you don't go into the top six, but also if you don't, then it's going to be a relegation battle for every team in that bottom six. So it's something we're looking forward to. We have to embrace, and we're not the ones under pressure. Ourselves and Motherwell, it's a huge bonus to be in the top six, but it's other teams that are under pressure, not us.
Well, Aberdeen and Rangers are assured of their places in the top 6. They meet at Pittodrie on Sunday, and Rangers will have to make a swift recovery from last night's goalless Europa League quarter-final first leg against Athletic Bilbao.
Oh yeah, we are united. I think playing 10 against 11 for the whole game like this, you can see that we are a team, that we help each other. We're just going to need to be preparation on Saturday, and then we go again on Sunday and try to do something good.
Now, the Championship's given us lots of exciting Friday night matches in recent years, hasn't it? And tonight promises to provide another. Title-chasing Falkirk are away to Ayr United, and Jonathan Sutherland is at Somerset Park to whet our appetite.
On the eve of the Scottish Grand National, fitting that we're on the final furlong as far as the SPFL Championship is concerned, with a clear favourite out in front. Falkirk should get promoted to the Premiership, but they still need to clinch this title. Victory tonight here at Ayr United would move them 11 points clear. And if Livingston failed to beat Morton tomorrow, Falkirk would be the title winners. But they need to get the job done here against an Ayr United side who can still technically win the title if they manage to get 3 points this evening against Falkirk. And it should be an entertaining match between these sides, always competitive. In fact, the last match between these sides, Ayr United won it 5-2. So expect plenty of goals this evening. Join us for Sports Scene, 7:30 on BBC Scotland on the iPlayer, and it's also being live streamed on the BBC Sport website.
To rugby now, and Glasgow Warriors are in Dublin tonight to take on Leinster in the quarter-finals of the Champions Cup. It's rugby's equivalent of the Champions League. And Warriors are looking to reach the last four for the first time in their history. But as Andy Burke now reports from Dublin, they go in as big underdogs.
Glasgow Warriors have made a habit of upsetting the odds in recent times, not least on the run to winning the United Rugby Championship title last season. But beating Leinster, this all-star team here in Dublin tonight, represents their biggest challenge yet. And for the Warriors players, it's all about embracing the pressure.
We just need to get our bodies and minds right for Friday night, get all the prep done that we need to get done, and just not get too intimidated by the occasion. We know it's going to be a massive occasion, and as long as we don't try and shy away from it, just embrace it, let it feed what we're going to do, and yeah, just go play our rugby.
Well, this would be a tall order at the best of times for Glasgow, but they are seriously under strength this evening, missing a host of key players, the likes of Scotland internationals Hugh Jones, Sione Tuipulotu, Jack Dempsey, Scott Cummings and Xander Fagerson, all through injury, and also the suspended South African back row Henko Venter. So this is not quite mission impossible for Glasgow here in Dublin tonight, but it's not far off it.
No, that's your weekend sorted anyway, isn't it?
Absolutely, it's going to be great. I can't wait. And before I go, I have to mention the rugby as well. What a huge weekend of sport. The women are playing in the Women's Six Nations, and they play Italy at the Hive on Sunday. Huge.
You won't be coming outside at all, will you?
Nope, I've got my weekend sorted.
Thank you, Liz.
Cheers, Laura.
Now, the pet owners among you will all like to treat your four-legged friends to a scenic walk when the sun is shining, I'm sure. But one dog and its owner have been taking their adventures to the next level. This weekend, Betty the Terrier and her owner will complete what's known as a full house of all of the Scottish summits, as well as the highest ones in England, Ireland and Wales, making Betty the first dog to complete the challenge. Her owner, Shona, says Betty's come a long way in more ways than one.
We're very similar, actually. We would like peace and quiet, and we can be grumpy at times. She can be a bit reluctant going through boggy bits, and when I first got her, she wouldn't actually step in a puddle. I mean, in some ways, I feel we've just done lots of dog walks with a few hills in the way. It really is a fantastic thing, the bond you have with your dog.
Oh, well done, Betty and Shona. OK, it's time for the weather forecast now. Here's Joy Dunlop.
Good evening. Well, it has been another fine and settled day of weather with plenty of warm or hazy sunshine across the country. But for the Northwest Highlands, the Western Isles and the Northern Isles, it's been rather overcast and damp at times. Now tonight we'll see that cloud in the north tending to clear away northwards. For Shetland, however, staying overcast with light rain and drizzle continuing. Elsewhere, it's another dry night under clear skies. Colder too than last night. Temperatures largely holding above freezing, though we could see the odd frost in in sheltered spots. Some patches too of mist and sea fog, particularly developing for the likes of Dumfries and Galloway, where it could be quite a misty, murky start, but elsewhere once more it will be dry, it will be fine with plenty of early sunshine, but we'll begin to see a change as the day progresses from the west. If we take a look in more detail around about 4 o'clock, actually an improving picture for Shetland, more in the way of brightness developing there, although still feeling in the chilly side there, and particularly for the Western Isles. Elsewhere, more in the way of cloud, with this rain pushing in from the south, reaching the central belt, the east coast, and particularly Dumfries and Galloway and parts of Argyll, and this could be heavy at times. It is going to continue to work its way northwards and eastwards into the evening before another front pushes in from the west, bringing further spells of rain that will sweep across the country. And as we move into Sunday, it is going to be an unsettled field conditions and feeling noticeably cooler too. Initially a wet start for some in more western spots, but actually still plenty of brightness in the east. Good few showers pushing in, and actually these could have a wintry feel on the mountain tops, as it's going to be a noticeably chillier day. As we can see, temperatures only peaking at 9 to 12 Celsius and winds once more beginning to ramp up. As we move into the beginning of next week, however, it's going to feel decidedly unsettled, and indeed we are going to have that chillier airflow with us for a few days. So a wet start for many on Monday, some quite heavy showers, the risk of hail, thunder in the mix too. They are going to continue to move in from the west as the day progresses. Again, wintry in the highest of ground. There will be some bright and sunny intervals, but it is still going to feel on the cooler side. That's your forecast.
Now, tonight's main news again. An extreme wildfire warning remains in place for the whole of the country today and into tomorrow. Crews are currently working to contain a fire in Thurso and in Peterhead. And that is reporting Scotland. Anne McAlpine will have your late news around 10:30 tonight. Until then, from everyone on the team, enjoy your evening. Good night.